All right, guys, today we're going to talk about expanding and condensing exponents. The first thing we're going to look at is the expanded form. I'm going to back up for a moment. Hopefully you have a writing utensil and a notebook in front of you. I also hope that you've written our title for today, Expanding and Condensing. So the first thing we're going to look at is expanded form. Think about it. When something expands, does it get bigger or smaller? Ooh, you can see my hands. Okay, hopefully you answered bigger. So I want you to think of it almost kind of like the longer version. Here's what I mean by that. So it's written as repeated multiplication. So you're going to see an example like 6 to the 7th power. And when it asks you to write it into expanded form, we're going to take our base, so our 6, and we're going to write it 7 times. So notice I have my 6. I have my multiplication symbol, and I've written 6 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. Another thing to note in my work, I've written multiplication as a small dot. We would like you to do the same, just to make sure you do not confuse your multiplication symbols with variables, especially when we start looking at x's. So let's take a look at an example with x. So if I have x to the 5th power, x is my base, and I'm going to write it 5 times. So my base has been multiplied by itself 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, let's look at another example. You may also see something with 2 exponents. So in this new example that I've written, and my 5 looks kind of funky, hopefully your 5 looks better, but I have x to the 5th power and y to the 3rd. Okay, well, I'll start with my first base, x. I've multiplied x by itself 5 times because x's power is 5. But now I have y to the 3rd power. So now I have my base y multiplied by itself 3 times. So as you guys do your practice, when you expand exponents, you might just see it with a base that's a number and your exponent, or you might also start to see one variable with your exponent, or you might just see 2 different variables with exponents. You may even see an example that looks like that might have a number involved. So if I have something that looks like 7 squared, a squared, and b to the 4th power, okay, well, my base 7, it has a power of 2. My base a has a power of 2. My base 4 has a power, or I'm sorry guys, my base b has a power of 4. So we have 2 a's, or I'm sorry, we have 2 7s, 2 a's, and 4 b's. That is expanding. We're taking our base and our power and we're making it bigger. All right, sweet. So now let's talk about condensing exponents. I'm flipping my page. If you need to write it lower on yours, you go for it. All right, so when we condense exponents, think about what condensing means. Are you making something bigger or smaller? Hopefully you've answered smaller or shorter. So we are going to use condensing to write them in the standard form. You might hear it called something else, and that's okay. And just like we talked about, guys, our standard form is now going to be the shorter version. And when we condense, we are going to write using exponents. So here is the cool thing about condensing. It is the opposite of expanding. So when we condense, we might start with something that looks like this. I have 12 times 12 times 12. And now I need to figure out how to write that in my condensed form using exponents. Okay, well, going back to my vocabulary, I know that a base is multiplied by itself. So my base in this problem is 12. And then I know my powers are how many times it's being multiplied. So 1, 2, 3. So my power here is the third power, 12 to the third power. All right, let's look at another example. What if we have something like x times x times y times y times y times y times y. Okay, let's start with my bases. I have x, and I see 1, 2 of them. So x to the second power. Okay, the next base I see is y. So now I have y, and I need to count them on up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Y to the fifth power. All right, let's look at one last example. What if I have all right, I'll give you a moment to write that. I have A's, 8's, A's, and B's. All right, well, the first base I'm going to start with is 8. I see 1, 2, 3 of them. 8 to the third power. Then I see A's, 1, 2. A to the second power. And then my B's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have B to the sixth power.